Hello and welcome to the Prelims PYQ discussion by New IAS. We have the Mughal period as a theme of discussion today. We have got 5 questions. This is an important theme in medieval India. It spans from the time period of 1526 until 1857, when the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar was executed. We have both social, economic, cultural, architectural dimensions to the Mughal period, and we have questions from all these dimensions. Let's look at the first question. With reference to medieval India, which one of the following is the correct sequence in the ascending order in terms of size? Now, ascending order means you have to start with the smallest. Then you go to the biggest, small to big. So here see, either you should know which is the smallest breaking or you should know which is the highest breaking. Now, Suba is the highest division. So once you have the empire, the biggest division, for example, it is something like the modern day state. If we have 28 states, they had 28 Subas. So don't think of the number, just think of the concept. So Suba is the primary division. Suba is the first thing. If you know that, then it's a 50-50 question for you. First Suba, then Sarkar, which is divided into Pargana next. So the answer is A here. Without knowing that, it's difficult to crack it. So let's not approach it logically. So the entire Suba was split into Sarkars, districts. Suba can be equated to a state, Sarkar can be equated to a district, and Sarkar is headed by someone called the Shikdar, can be equated to a district collector. Then each Sarkar is divided into something called the Parganas. And each Pargana had two Karkuns, means clerks or writers. So they can be considered as local self-governments and officials can be considered as Karkuns. Then this is one polity that is not indigenous to Akbar. This is something that was developed by Sher Shah. So Sher Shah had a time period in between the reign of Humayun for a span of 10 to 15 years. Sher Shah defeated Humayun. Sher Shah was a Afghan ruler, whereas the Mughals are Timurids. So this progressive policy of Sher Shah was later adopted by Akbar when he came to power. That's the logic behind that. Moving to the second question. With reference to the Mughal India, what is or are the differences between Jagirdar and Zamindar? Two important terms. Both are overlapping as well. That's why the question is set like this. See the first option? The Jagirdar were holders of land assignments in lieu of judicial and police duties, whereas Zamindars were holders of revenue rights without any obligation to perform any duty other than revenue collection. Land assignments to Jagirdars were hereditary and revenue rights of Zamindars were not hereditary. Here you need some conceptual clarity. See, the Mughal polity is organized in terms of Jagirdars. They had the entire empire in their control and they had a lot of officials to look after the empire. These officials were given revenue assignments called Jagirs. So revenue assignment means the revenue from this plot of land can be taken by the official as a salary. These Jagirs were both hereditary as well as transferable. The hereditary Jagirs were given to princely states like Rajputs because Rajputs were an ally of Akbar. So for people like Mansingh, they were given hereditary Jagirs. These Jagirs were called Watan Jagirs. And transferable Jagirs were given for other officials. So Jagirs are both hereditary as well as transferable. And people who were given Jagirs were called the Jagirdars. And these can be people who hold Mansabs as well. Mansab is a rank. The rank that people hold in the Mughal court. Now where do Zamindars feature here? Zamindars can be Jagirdars as well because they are the traditional owners of the land. They can be nobles as well. Or they can be revenue collectors within the Jagir as well. And they performed smaller duties apart from revenue collection. They did local policing. They supplied the Mughal king with men. They supplied the Jagirdar with men and horses. So this is the system. Now you go back to the question. Jagirdars were holders of land assignments in lieu for judicial and police duties, correct. Whereas Zamindars were holders of revenue rights without any obligation to perform any duty other than revenue collection. That is wrong. All these are correct, but they also had the duty. They also had some obligations. So that's where the statement becomes wrong. Next up, land assignments to Jagirdars were hereditary and revenue rights to Zamindars were not hereditary. Again, wrong. I told you Jagirdars were both hereditary as well as transferable. In case of Zamindars as well, it was both hereditary as well as transferable because the Zamindars can be Jagirdars as well. So here both statements are wrong. The right answer is option D. Moving to the next question. With reference to Mian Tansen, which one of the following statement is not correct? Tansen was the title given to him by Emperor Akbar. Tansen composed Drupada on Hindu gods and goddess. Tansen composed god songs for his patrons. Tansen invented many ragas. See the three statements here. They're very generic. Tansen invented many ragas. Obviously, he was a great musician. Tansen composed songs for his patrons. Obviously, he worked in the court of Akbar, so he will compose songs for the patron because that was a tradition there. That is the tradition with every king. Everyone in the court is going to praise the king. That's pure logic. Tansen composed Drupada on Hindu gods and goddess. Again, correct. Because Tansen was devotional and that is a religious society. Society in the medieval times were very religious. You have the Bhakti culture along the same time. So it is very obvious. See the first thing. This is where factual part comes in. Was it the title given by Akbar? Now both these titles, Mian and Tansen, both are titles. Mian was given by Akbar. Tansen was not given by Akbar. Tansen is the title given by Raja Vikramjit of Gwalior. Then Akbar gave the title Mian. So the factual mistake there is where UPSC has put the wrong option. So option A is the wrong answer here and option A will be the right statement because not correct is being asked. Next question, who among the following Mughal emperors shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to albums and individual portraits? Now here you have to understand how Mughal paintings worked. Mughal painting starts with miniatures. Initially it is calligraphy, writings as decorations on the borders of text. Then it becomes miniatures. Then it becomes individual portraits. And this happens in the reign of Jahangir. Babur consolidates the empire. He doesn't have time to invest in all these. Humayun also gets defeated by Sher Shah. During Akbar's time, these things gets expanded, miniatures and everything starts, but Akbar is more focused on text, philosophy, religion, and Akbar doesn't read. He doesn't know how to read. He was read too. It is during the time of Jahangir that a lot of investment in paintings began to happen, and this change happened during the time of Jahangir. During Shah Jahan's time, the focus is on architecture, Taj Mahal. So the answer here is Jahangir. Next up, the last question. The arrival of Babur into India led to the introduction of gunpowder into the subcontinent, introduction of the arch and dome in the region's architecture, establishment of the Timurid dynasty. Now see the second statement here. Arch and dome, a typical Islamic architecture feature. Islamic rule in India didn't begin with the Mughals. It began with the Delhi Sultanate. And that is almost 400 years before this. So you cannot say that introduction of arch and dome happens with Babur. This is wrong. So you take out option B, statement 2. So option A and option D goes out. 3 becomes obviously right. Now for more clarity, I'll just tell you that Timur is the forefather of the Mughals. So Timurid dynasty for the first time is established in India with the Mughals. So that statement is correct. Going to the first one, it's a tricky statement. Introduction of gunpowder in the subcontinent. See this, subcontinent. And introduction of gunpowder. Guns were used for the first time during the Mongol invasion. But introduction of the gunpowder is not in the subcontinent during this time. Gunpowder experiments were done during the time of Delhi Sultanate itself. But it somehow didn't succeed. Even in China it happens, but it didn't succeed. So it was used well by Babur. But it doesn't mean that it was introduced for the first time during Babur's time. So that statement is wrong. That's why I said it is tricky. So right answer here is option B, 3 only. So that's it. These questions reflects the need to have clarity in the concepts and some kind of a factual knowledge, just like the way we saw it in the Tansen's question. So that's it. Thank you for listening.